you have to find something to connect you every single day, and sometimes multiple times a day, to what's most important.
This is the Inside Scoop on Outside Sales, the show that dives deep with industry leaders to get you actionable insights to help field sales professionals like you grow and achieve more. Here's your host, Trey Gibson.
Hey everybody, it's Trey Gibson, CEO and founder here at Spodio, and you're listening to the Inside Scoop on Outside Sales podcast. Really excited about my guest today, Chris Pierce, mental toughness expert. We all need help with mental toughness in sales. I know you're an expert who also trains sales professionals to double and triple their results. You have a master's degree in sports psychology, and really cool that you've trained top surfers in Southern California, but also Green Beret and Army Rangers. So you have a wide span of top performing people that you've trained. And our topic today is mental toughness in sales, how to excel in high stress environments and why that's important. Chris, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here. Super excited.
So it's Q4, and we know what that means. It's the end of the year. And we've had a long year in sales. It's been some tough economic conditions, a lot going on. And I would imagine that a lot of sales professionals out there are having issues with mental toughness, right? Is that what you're seeing?
I mean, the way I think about it, it's like, I don't know, mile 20 of
Yeah.
of a marathon, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can see the end. Everything hurts, but yet you it's not over yet, right? You still got some work to be done. And I think, we can get into this, but at that point in a marathon, all the pain is like right up in your face, and it's easy to like make excuses and to look back at your goals and kind of, oh, well, I'm going to drop them down, give a little less effort, just like a marathon. It's like, oh, I can slow down, or, well, I made it 20 miles. That's good.
So we could, well, let's maybe back up a little bit, because I don't want to jump right to the end of how the heck do I get through
Right.
Q4.
Yeah.
So let's zoom up a little bit and just the concept of mental toughness, maybe as related to sales. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, mental toughness with anything, I think the simplest way to think about it is alignment, right? Like there is a task at hand. Most typically when you need to be mentally tough, it's something difficult, and it's also something important, and there's consequences if you don't accomplish the task effectively, right? And so the mental toughness side is simply aligning yourself, your thoughts, your emotions with that thing and your ability to do it. And so the reason that people need it is because it's so easy to get out of alignment. And
Absolutely.
So if you think about it that way, it's really just like the process of getting aligned and maintaining that alignment.
So to have alignment, you first have to know where you're going, right? That's kind of the North Star. And so is that where it all starts? Is I need to have a goal or something that I'm working towards?
Well, so yes, it is. But I think kind of in conjunction with that is you need to understand like who you are. Because I think a lot of times, especially with social media, we're told what to do. We're told what we want. We're shown the shiny objects. And so I think for people, a lot of times, especially in sales and depending on the organization they're with, a lot of organizations push very specific things. This is what you want. That's who you want to be like. And so I think caught up in that, but the reality is maybe that's not what they want. That's not who they want to be, but they get caught in like the excitement of it all in the moment. And it's not until a month later that they're like, I hate this. This is the worst. What am I doing? I don't even care about this stuff.
Right.
And so I think, it's more of like, who are you first? Second would be what. what is it that you want.
What is it that you want? And then what's the next step after that?
So after that is why. And the why is really the reconnection of who am I? So it's like, who am I? What do I want? Why do I want it? Is reconnecting to who I am and understanding really the combination of the three.
And so is that those combinations, is that what I resort back to in order to have mental toughness and to keep going when things are, Q4 and you're slamming against a wall on mile 20?
Yeah. So a lot of people go through this process of like identifying who they are, what they want. They set their goals, they put their vision board up on the wall,
yeah.
and which is great. But I think that the next step is making a connection, right? So when you're in mile 20, right, having a plan for the thoughts you're going to think, having a plan for the emotions you're going to feel. And it's not just about the thoughts and the emotions, but it's the actual strategy of when everything hurts and I don't want to do it, what am I going to do? What are the actions I'm going to take? And then practicing it long before it hurts.
That's good.
Because if you can't do it when things are going well, then how can you do it when things are going horribly?
Yeah, that's good. I don't know if I've thought about it that way. And so almost thinking ahead of what am I going to feel like, what it's going to be like in that situation, and trying to live it now or go through it now. So that's good. I really like that. Are there exercises that you have or like the process in order to do that?
Yeah. So everybody that I work with, I want them to break all this down. And it's, it can be a long process.
Right. It doesn't happen during a podcast. Yeah.
Right. But it's also something that happens like over time. It shouldn't be like your core values. And yes, there's a process to identify what those are, but they should be constantly being added to. It's not like, oh, go through this exercise and then you're good. It's go through this exercise and then connect with it on a daily basis. Now, the way that happens depends on who you are, right? Some people, like myself, I've got my journal, right? And so I love writing.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's wonderful. And I hate to be the guy that's like, well, it depends. But if you hate journal writing, then you're never going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I had one guy, actually I've had a few, but this one guy would send me a video at the end of every day, like as he was driving home. And it's just like, hey man, yeah, this is what happened today. Right. And for him, that was like a connection to what was important. So he would tell me what he did, why he did it, the hard parts, the good parts, right? And it wasn't long. It was like 30 seconds to maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah.
If it was like a particularly rough day. But for him, that was something that he would actually do. And so the answer is you have to find something to connect you every single day, and sometimes multiple times a day, to what's most important, right? To that vision board.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because if you forget, then you're going to fail to keep going when you've hit that 20-mile mark and it's just hard. And I think also there's 20-mile markers in the year, and there's 20-mile markers in like a day.
Yeah.
Because you might get an hour in and you're just like, for me, like I've got this knee that I've had 2 ACL reconstructions. And so when I do physical activities, a lot of times 5 minutes in, it's like, oh no, my knee's acting up. And so people have that happen, in sales,
for sure.
First door and somebody's screaming at you and you're just like, oh, it's going to be one of these
days. Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to one of our reps yesterday and he had a really good month last month. And, he was telling me, I was like, how's it going so far this month? And he's like, I feel like I'm doing the same things, but the results aren't there. What do you, any advice, or, how would you handle that situation? And, my advice to him was, you just got to keep going. Like, that the behaviors and the attitude, and just keep going. But like, how would you, a sales slump, right? Like, I call it the roller coaster. Like, how does someone get out of that?
So there are a lot of different things that you can do. And I think you got to kind of dive into like really what's going on. But one of the simplest and best things that I've seen that people can do, it goes back to this again. But I mean, you can do it in your head, do it with the video, do it in a voice memo, write it on your notes in your phone. Ask 2 questions every single day, right? So if you're going to do nothing else, ask yourself these 2 questions. What am I going to continue to do? And what am I going to do differently? And what those 2 questions are going to do is they're going to make you think back on the day. And instead of thinking about the results and like, oh yeah, I got X amount of sales or sits or appointments, whatever, you're going to rather look at, okay, what am I going to change, right? What am I going to do differently tomorrow? Maybe it's, I'm going to knock with more urgency. Maybe it's, I didn't push past, enough smoke screens. So tomorrow,
one thing, I'm going to pick one, not 5, but like just one. Yeah.
Yeah. And just pick like one thing to do differently. I slept in, maybe I need to wake up, or like, there's a million things that it could be. Just pick one. But then also, what am I going to continue to do? And so what that's going to allow, like the example that you gave, he had a really good month, right? But if he's looking during the good times at what did I do? Like, I just closed that deal. What did I do that I'm going to continue to do tomorrow? Then he's not second guessing himself, and he's going to get focused on like what is working, and what are those little nuances that, oh, they asked me this question, here's how I responded with confidence. Okay, remember that word track, and then, keep it going next time.
I love that. That reminds me of I don't know if it's a quote or a stat or a fact, whatever. It's, if I get 1% better each day at the end of the year, what 300, it's 32,000. It's something ridiculous. I can't believe I'm rattling this off and I forgot it, but it's something around like, I get 1% better each day. And at the end of the year, I've made like exponential leaps forward. And I think those 2 things you said really play well into that. I like that. I'm going to start doing that myself and writing that down. Really good tactical advice that our listeners can take away. Hey, it's really good. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the inside scoop on outside sales.
We hope you're enjoying the inside scoop on outside sales. If you want to hear more value-packed content, be sure to subscribe and check us out anywhere on social at Spodio. Now back to the show.
What I wanted to jump to now is, I know you have experience with some pretty hardcore military personnel. So who's got more mental toughness, the Green Berets or the top performing sales reps?
Oh man, that's okay, this is where my thoughts went. If you put a Green Beret in, like if you swapped them, right?
Yeah.
Like threw him on the doors and vice versa, like I don't know.
It's so funny you say that.
Interesting.
My father-in-law is a Green Beret, an ex-Green Beret in Vietnam. He's extremely mentally tough, like beyond. And he was over at my house yesterday, and he was saying, he goes, I just couldn't make a sales call. He goes, I don't know how you do it, because I was talking to him about sales. So it's so funny you say that, because that literally happened to me yesterday with my father-in-law, who's a Green Beret. So I think you're right.
Well, so here's the thing. I think all of us are mentally tough at something, but yet we put ourselves, and here's the thing. Okay, when you think about mental toughness, resilience, there's kind of 2 sides to it. One is intentionally putting yourself into a difficult situation, right? Somebody runs a marathon, like there's nobody holding a gun to their head making them do that, right? They chose, and hopefully they trained and they practiced and got ready for it. But then there's also the other side of things where life happens, unexpected tragedies, things that you would not wish upon your worst enemy, right? And those kinds of things, I think both Green Berets and sales professionals, like, just because of the nature of their jobs that they've intentionally put themselves in, are better equipped. Maybe they don't use the tools that they have, but they're better equipped to handle those unexpected life tragedies and difficulties, so long as they use the same skill sets that, you know, that they've learned either on the doors or on the battlefield.
So did you do some of the same the techniques and strategies with the military as you do salespeople? Is it kind of the same concepts?
Oh, it is. I mean, sure, there's little nuances, you know, differences, but 95% is the same. Like, I worked with, you know, guys getting ready to go to Ranger School. Ranger School is 62 days of like one of the hardest, most miserable, you know, military schools there is, with a 60% failure rate. And we were able to jump it up to like above 80% success rate. And I mean, there were a lot of different things going into that, but one of the things that we did was we helped them understand that it's going to be hard, and we developed, not only gave them the tools, but practice using those tools for when it did get hard. I use a light analogy, right? Like a stoplight, right? When it's green, you're good to go. Everything's great, right? When it's red, you stop. There's this yellow part that's kind of, well, if it's clear, I'm slamming on the gas, I'm going through it. But there's also the yellow where it's like, okay, no, I got to be cautious. Let's slow things down. People need to be aware of what's going on, right? So what are my thoughts and emotions and behavior when things are green, when all is well? What are my thoughts, emotions, and behavior when things are awful and they're red, right? And I'm just stopped. I can't even get out of the car, or can't even get in the car. And what causes those, right? There's triggers that cause the green. There's triggers that cause the red. But what's most important is to understand the yellow, because the yellow we typically are unaware of. Right? Like, you're driving and it turns yellow. You're like, I think it was still green, whatever. The same thing is true as you're going throughout your days, right? Somebody may make a rude comment to you, and you're not aware that you've now started this train of thought that's like, oh, people in this area suck. Like, I don't like, right? I can't believe I'm having this job, right? And they're kind of subconscious. They're not something that you're like saying out loud to yourself.
Right.
And so if you can become aware of those things and become aware of the emotions that follow those types of thoughts, right? Where now your energy has, kind of shifted down a little bit. And it's not like, oh, you're exhausted. It's just that the next door you go and talk to them and you're just like, hey, what's up?
Right. Yeah. It's that little shift in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you typically don't notice it, right? So you're knocking for another 2 hours.
Right.
And you haven't even realized that you're not in the game. You're just there, but you're not playing the game.
And you're not getting the results. It's just all probably like a spiral, right? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, or like a slippery slope, whatever the hell you call it. But yeah, things aren't going to go good.
But and the whole point of the thing is just to pay attention, right? It's to recognize and acknowledge that, like, oh, that happened and I'm slipping a little bit.
Yeah.
And typically when you notice that you're slipping, right? It's kind of like when you notice you got like crap in your teeth, right? You're like, oh man, how long have I had that there?
Yeah.
Right. You go and you get it out. Like, you notice your flies down. Who leaves it down? Like, you go and you zip it up, right?
Yeah.
So, but that only happens when you catch yourself in the yellow light. If you get to the red, then all of a sudden you need all these extra tools and strategies because you're like, everything sucks and I hate this, and right, and you've gone so extreme that you need all these extreme tools and strategies to like just get you back to like to like a baseline.
Yeah.
But if you catch yourself in the yellow, then it's much easier to just like, oh, okay, flies down, zip it up. Okay, let's get back to it.
So there's going to be sales reps out there listening to this, and how some might just raise their hands like, I need some help. Like maybe I'm in the red zone, or there's some that are like, do I need to work on my mental toughness or not? Like, what are some of the signs that you see that when you do an evaluation or initial consultation with someone and you're like, bro, you need some help? Like, what are some of those things that stick out?
Well, okay. So I think there's a few different things, right? I get people that come to me and they're just like, I've been in this for a long time. I'm really good, but I'm just not, right? It's like everything's going bad, or I'm in a slum, right? And I think that's the extreme. And I would say, don't wait till you're there to get help, because a lot of times you're at a point where it's like, okay, just go get a different job. Like you're not yes. coming back from it,
too late. Because
it's like you've put so much, you're carrying so much weight, and there's so much like emotional tension that like, and I've seen that before, and it's really sad because people have this, it's almost like somebody that makes it to the majors and then just washes out. It's like you've spent your whole life getting to this point where you're amazing and you're just over it. Right. And so, yes, that happens a lot, but I would say don't wait for that. Most of the people that I work with are like, you know what? I've seen success. I used to be here and I've gotten here, but I want to be up here. Right. They notice that like, I'm not where I want to be. And that's the big question, like if you're thriving and you're just like crushing it, like, then awesome. Like, that's amazing. But if you see, even if you are thriving and crushing it, but you see that you can be at an even higher level.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that's like, I want to get somewhere more is a good indication that like you can build some mental toughness.
Yeah, that's good. Every now and then on LinkedIn, I'll see posts of like, top performing sales reps do this. They always set next steps after the meeting, or, whatever. There's always these things people say top reps do. From your perspective, some of the good, double, triple sales, some of the great results that your clients have had, like, what are the characteristics of those top performing reps that set them apart from maybe someone that didn't see good results?
So they're always wanting to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
desire to improve.
Yeah. So desire to improve. But also they're confident, but know that they can get better. And then I think they're able to align themselves and then realign themselves when they get thrown off. The most mentally tough people have a clear vision of where they're going. They can see it, and they have strategies for when they get thrown off to realign.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like I've always been a real goal-oriented person. I at the beginning of each year, I write down what I want to accomplish for the year. I revisit it each week, but I never have had a strategy or a plan for what happens if I get off track. It seems so obvious, but it just has never been a part of what I do and actually plan for it, right? Like, actually, what am I going to do if I get off track?
Well, if you think about it like a diet, right? Like if you want to eat healthy, one, you got to remove the unhealthy food, mm-hmm. and then two, replace the urges that you have, right? If in the evenings you get a sweet tooth, right?
Yeah.
Then get rid of the sweets, one, but two, what is something like healthy? Like, I love having like an apple with some peanut butter, right? Instead of, some apple pie,
Yeah.
right? And so you can replace those things, right? And now we're talking about food, but the same thing is true. People know what throws them off track for the most part, right? They know that they have a tendency to do certain things, right? And so the more that you pay attention to those things, then you can make a plan for it. If you know what throws you off, and then you have a plan, like you can catch yourself before it happens, or halfway through the bite, and you're like, you know what, it's not worth it.
Not worth it. Yeah, throw the pie away. Yeah.
Exactly. And so anyway, so I think that's really a big key, is knowing those tendencies that you have, and sometimes it has to do with certain people. This person tends to like get me, off track and doing other things. Like James Clear says that the reason people don't accomplish their goals is because of a clearer path to lesser goals. And I think people get confused with that because of the word use of a goal, and I think goal's not really maybe as accurate as it could be. Maybe it's more like more enjoyable things in the moment, right? Like instant gratification. And, it's like there's a clear path to, going and having pizza tonight than like having my pre-made meal in the fridge.
Than the rice and chicken that is there. Yeah.
Or even like if we get to sales, like the rest of the team is taking, the day off.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or everybody's working a half day, but that doesn't align with my, goal to work at, X amount of hours every, certain days a week.
Yeah, that makes sense. Before I jump to the few rapid fire questions, anything that you wanted to cover or had on mind that we haven't touched on yet? I wanted to just throw that out there to see if we might have missed anything.
I would say to the listeners, where are you right now? Right? Like if you took the stoplight analogy and just kind of sat with that as, rather than like, I don't know, performance kind of thing, quick in the moment, just if you sat with it in general, like over this last week, where are you at? And then ask yourself those two questions. What do I need to continue to do? And what do I need to do differently? Right? Going back to, Q4, right? Holidays are coming. There are going to be distractions. You're going to have family and friends that invite you to stuff. What are you going to do? And what are you not going to do? And if you choose now, then you're far more likely to make the right decision than if they ask you and you're like, oh, well, let me think about it. Yeah. Oh, yes, I'll do the fun thing rather than knocking doors.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I know that's not something new, but I would say do it. Like at the end of this podcast, like turn it off and do it. Like pull out a journal or something, pull out a whiteboard and write some stuff down and take an accurate and honest assessment of what's going on.
So rapid fire questions. What's your favorite business or personal development book?
Okay. My always go to is, okay. And it's funny you say business and personal development. This is called Heads Up Baseball. So,
all right, I'll order that after we get off.
It's great. And it was written by one of my mentors, Ken Ravizza. And so he passed away a couple of years ago. And it's just, he's so good. Anyway,
I'll check it out. If you could turn back time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
Oh man. Okay. 18-year-old me, save your money.
Yeah. 401k. Yeah.
Save and invest.
Yeah. I hear that. Do you have any secret morning routines that get you set up for success for the day?
I don't, man, I don't know that I have any secrets. There's, okay, I'll give you this one. And okay, so a lot of people have a really big, solid morning routines. And what I would say, okay, Green Berets are like the most prepared people ever. Mm-hmm. I know this is rapid fire.
That's all good. Keep going.
So I apologize. Like, I am talking way too much. Okay, Green Berets, super prepared, but all of them have like a grab bag, right? So like, let's say they can't take their whole garage full of, things to fight the zombie apocalypse, but they need to take just their backpack that can help them survive for the next 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Okay. Think about your morning routine like that, because what happens so often that I see is these people have these very extravagant morning routines, and then life happens and they all of a sudden can't do all of it. And so they don't do any of it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would say, create a grab bag morning routine, right? If you can't make it to the gym, what are you doing that takes, do 10 burpees, like your heart will get pumping and you will get a pretty good workout, and it only takes like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
To a minute, right? So if you got 5 minutes to do your morning routine that typically takes an hour, what's your grab bag version? What are you gonna do?
Grab bag.
Awesome. So that's what I would say. Now, the one caveat is don't make your grab bag your everyday morning routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like save it for when
that's good.
You don't have the time.
Chris, it's been really good talking with you. So much actionable advice and takeaways that I'm taking from this, and I know everybody else will too. How can the sales reps out there, teams, companies work with you or get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm just Chris_Pierce. Call me 808-347-1248. Like, shoot me a text. Nice. Shoot me a text first, because
don't pick up weird phone numbers. Too many spam numbers these days.
Yeah, it's weird. And that's a real phone number. Like, that's legit my cell. It's not one of those join the community or whatever kind of things. That's just my phone number. Anyway, I'm an open book. Hit me up.
It's great. Thanks so much, Chris, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome.
You've just listened to the Inside Scoop on Outside Sales Podcast with your host, Trey Gibson. Please feel free to leave us a review and subscribe to our channel so you can catch our next episode. Thank you for listening.